Hello everyone, I welcome all you in this channel. In this video, we are going to explain the poem The Sea and the Skylark, which was composed by the famous poet J.M. Hopkins. So, before explaining the poem, we must know about a little introduction of the of the poet J.M. Hopkins. So, the full form of J.M. Hopkins is the full name of J.M. Hopkins is that George Manley Hopkins, who was born a middle-class family in 1844, and he was educated at Balliol College, Oxford. He was the pupil of Jowett and Pater. Bridges and Dolbens were among his friends. He was a disciple of Pusey and Leiden, and after his conversion in 1866 to the Church of Home of Newman, he entered the Jesuit novitiate in 1869. The eldest child of a middle-class family, he was educated at Highgate and later went to Oxford, where he came under the influence of the Oxford movement and John Henry Newman. His religious background was high church, and in order to please his mother, Bible reading had become a habit with him. In 1866, at the age of 22, he converted to Roman Catholicism. 2 years later, he joined the Jesuit Society and in 1877 was ordained to priesthood. Intellectually bright and curious, he had wide-ranging interests which perhaps could not be best used by the Jesuit Society. Hopkins spent a lifetime in a situation of conflict and self-inflicted attempt to discipline his intellectual vigor. He felt that his poetic ability was contrary to his priestly duties and that this activity would not win him the approval of his superiors. In 1884, Hopkins was appointed to the chair of Greek at Dublin University. He was a poet of much originality and skillful innovator in writing. He wrote a number of short poems which were collected after his death by Robert Bridges, who published a small selection from them in a Miles Poets and Poetry of the Century. A practically complete edition of his poems was published in 1918. It was reissued with some additions in 1913. So today Hopkins is regarded as one of the major poets in the realm of English poetry. Although his influence is more technical than spiritual, yet his acute sensibility to beauty, his original metaphors and his sincerity can't be denied. About J.M. Hopkins, Dr. F.R. Lewis writes, the bent of his genius was so strong that we are forced to believe that his experimenting would have taken much the same lines even if there had been no Shakespeare. Hopkins belongs to Shakespeare, Donne, Eliot as opposed to Spenser, Milton and Tennyson. About him, A.C. Ward says, 20th century literature observes that young poets of the new generation felt strongly the influence not only of Eliot but also that of an earlier poet, J.M. Hopkins. So we can say that Hopkins' poetry belongs to modernism in more than one way. It belongs to modernism on the basis of its subject matter and its use of language and experimentation in rhythm and syntax. The individualism of Hopkins' verse is an objective individualism, if one may coin the phrase, for it is very different from the subjective emotionalism of the Romantics. It anticipates the Elysian theory of impersonality. There is a questioning of the relationship of God, man and man to nature. This questioning is underlined by doubt and tension, which is in turn is expressed in the compressed syntax and the spring rhythm. He vowed to shoot his thoughts. Spring rhythm didn't adhere to any convention material feat. Instead, it allowed the birds to create their own rhythm. So, among Hopkins' most characteristic species are now we will discuss about the most important works which was written by J.M. Hopkins. Out of them, each the Wreck of the Doodsland and the Windower. His notebooks edited by H. House have been published in 1937. These notebooks contains valuable and interesting prose passages. His letters, which are also very valuable and interesting, have been edited by C. Abbott. But his last poems, which are called the Terrible Sonnets, were written at a time when he was physically and mentally ill. They convey a sense of gloom and despair. Now we will now we will introduce the poem "The Sea and the Skylark." The Sea and the Skylark is one of his lesser known poems. Felix Rendall and the Windower are extremely well known. The Sea and the Skylark, however, does reflect several of the qualities of Hopkins' poetry. This poem was written in 1877 in a seaside town a few miles from Estepona College. Hopkins lived there for about 3 years to complete his theological studies. In this poem, the sea and the skylark are contrasted with man whose deterioration seems to the poet evident in a tasteless seaside town. It is in standard rhythm in parts sprung and in order to counterpointed. This poem is a sonnet and the polarity of the title is between water and air, the sea and the skylark, representative of nature. This sonnet was originally titled Walking by the Sea. While walking near the sea, the poet hears two sounds which makes a deep impression on him, largely two states. The contrast with the fate crumbling town. He calls them too old to end. So now we will. So now, what is the theme of the poem? So the Sea and the Skylark is a sonnet, a poem of 14 lines. It was originally titled Walking by the Sea. In this sonnet, the sea and the skylark are described in the octave. These are contrasted with men in the sextet. The mood of the poet is joyous in octave, where he describes the natural sounds of the sea and the skylark singing, but with the very first line of the sextet, the mood changes to one of gloom and despondency. The remaining lines of the sextet are deeply pessimistic. The poet foresees the total decline and even dissolution of human race. The poem ends with a deep sense of loss at the thoughts that man is losing his identity and destroying his pattern. The theme of the sonnet is contrast between the life-giving purity of nature and sordidness of civilization that man is creating.